Somewhere in US there is a girl they love so much Mythic Legions and made awesome custom from this mythic line. And the name of this girl is Nikki Nikole. Welcome, Nikki, to my show. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I love your song and your intro.
Thank you so much. And every guest in every show, by the way, this is the episode number 27 of my show. And in every show, I create an improvisation for each guest. So I create a new song in every episode.
I love it.
Also
I love
because, also because every guest needs a different song because every guest has a different story.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And the first question for you, tell me how start in general your passion for action figures.
Well, I kind of I've only been collecting again. I say again because I collected in childhood with my brother. And I started collecting again about 7 years ago. And I was suddenly bit by this, what I call the nostalgia bug. So just this familiarity and interest from childhood, and remembering how interested I was in things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and GI Joe and things like that. So it just kind of came back around for me. I started collecting again, and with Mythic Legions, it was kind of a little bit different story because I also had this other passion throughout my childhood, also of creating characters for Dungeons and Dragons, and Mythic Legions was the perfect venue because they're so customizable to continue on that path of creating characters in a very visual way.
Also because Mythic Legions, because I into Mythic Legion, I start to collect that these figures on last April after my first interview with Corboy. And when I
Mhm.
talk with him, start something in my mind because I'm also a fantasy fan. I like Lord of the Rings. I like Hero Quest board game, and so this figure with different scale for each characters, each race.
Mhm.
Start to do something, and I start to start many projects because on this channel is a stop motion series for Mythic Legions. I still working for a Mythic Legion surprise that will be revealed soon. And I discovered this because they are so different to every other toy line because we have too so much details, realistic. I remember the first time, the first figure that I got was King Brandon, and when I got this one on my hand, says, "Oh my God, this looks like real. Looks like to an
Yeah.
actor that play some role in the movie, fantasy movie, and jump off the screen." And
Oh, yeah.
this figure is a big push for the creativity for the people, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. It's not only, for people that want to collect them as is and kind of world build in that fantasy genre, but anything from basic part swaps, if you're not a painter, can give you great creative freedom just with that. And if you add painting and 3D parts to that, or if you're a sculptor, you could do your own sculpting. It just adds this whole different dimension to the line. But it's a very unique line. You are right about
Yeah,
that.
how start your passion, how you discover your talent to this to customize the figure?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
How you discover your talent to
Mm.
customize action figures, and especially Mythic Legions?
Yeah, when I was a bit younger, I did a little bit of painting with Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, and I kind of discovered that I was decent at it. And the first time I tried it, I expected it to be terrible, and it was pretty good. So that kind of gave me confidence, but I never really pursued it after that. And I do have a little bit of an art background throughout high school and early adulthood, but around that time, I had to decide whether I wanted to go to art school or pursue the sciences. And I ended up pursuing the sciences and just kind of leaving art to the side that whole time. And so I think that was why the nostalgia and artistic need kind of came back around about 7 years ago, and I can't put it aside anymore. So
Yes, also because if you listen some bell in the background, because I live near a church, and these big church
Mm.
ring midnight 12 times and two times. And I don't know why every hour, two times. Maybe because they thought that we forgot the hour. I don't know. But back to Mythic Legions, I understand your feelings because when you discover your talent and you start to work with your talent, when you finish, for example, one figure, when you finish a book, you have like a need to do another one, and
Oh yeah.
another one, and another one, and another one, and you become full time in this in your creativity. So I understand what do you mean about that, but I believe it's time to take a look, a closer look of some of your work. Can you show me one of your figures now?
Sure. Well, I have a whole set of Mythic Legions horses behind me, and we'll get to those. But let's start with the first one. So I did this one a couple years ago. This is a tiger, and he even has a tail back there. So for all of my customs, I usually try to select a base body that's the same or similar color to the final character. And with this one, we don't have any white or orange bodies yet. So for this one, I actually used like a human body, a human based body, and kind of went with that. And I felt like that was close enough to the final color. I know that you can like sand joints and everything to, so that there's no joint rub with those colors, but I don't really like doing that. So I try to avoid that when possible. Let me show you his back here. So for this one, I'm a biologist, so I do like to use real life reference for all my kind of animal human creations. So this was actually done from some photo reference from an actual tiger.
And he have also a name. He has a name. This character.
I have not named him, but he's in on my shelf and in my world. He is a gladiator.
A gladiator, a tiger gladiator.
Yeah.
And how many time for to do a custom like this one? How many time you need?
Oh, this one was very, very time consuming because it's a full repaint, and the armor is just from another figure, so that part was easy. But the full paint and the pattern is very time consuming. So I would say 3 to 4 hours for this.
Okay, I believe also the most difficult part is the tiger skin because so many
Mhm.
details, the symmetric of the lines is not easy to
Yeah,
choose a difficult animal to start to this
yeah.
custom.
This was, and a lot of people, when you think of a tiger, you don't always see in your mind how much white they have on them. And kind of where the pattern is heaviest, which would be in the back, and it kind of lightens up towards the front. So I kind of learned a lot about, every animal that I do, exactly how they are colored and patterned as I paint and use those photo references.
Super cool. Can you show me another one?
Of course. So let's see. This one is in the larger scale, so using the ogre body, and you can see his feet there. So this guy, very similar to the mind flayers of Dungeons and Dragons, and this is very simple as far as armor. I still haven't painted his armor, but I just wanted to keep the armor very simple, and it's a 3D printed head from Teal Titan and part swaps from various ogre figures that they've done. And for this one, I kind of started experimenting with dyeing figures. I said earlier I don't like sanding joints because it's a pain, but I can tell you that dyeing is also equally a pain to do. It's
Okay.
not any. It's not any better with time commitment, but it just seems a little bit more enjoyable to me. So this one I actually dyed an Ogre Legion Builder red, and then I painted the head to match that.
What is the inspiration to create this character? Because it's different because you choose this ad, I believe, for some reason. What is the inspiration to create this character?
I really just was always attracted to the Dungeons and Dragons mind flayers, and I've always been also really interested in real life with squid and octopus. They're super intelligent. They have all these amazing colors and patterns that they can change instantly, and just very fascinating creatures. So to have like a fantasy representation of that, and you know, in the Dungeons and Dragons world, they have all kinds of like psychic powers. They use their mind as weapons, basically. So that's just interesting to me. And visually, the cephalopod type head is very interesting to me too.
Very cool. There is some comments in the chat, and someone asked if your custom are on sale. It's possible to get your custom.
Yeah, most of what I create is for my own collection. I do have a full-time job, so I am limited on time. But occasionally I will put things up for sale on my Instagram page or my Facebook page. But right now, my concentration for the next year is actually doing in-person conventions. So November 14th is Legions Con, and my goal is to have 120 painted heads for sale, plus full custom figures for sale there as well. And then later in the year, later in 2022 in March, is Toylanta. So I will be there as well. And that's my main focus right now, is to paint things and make things for those two conventions.
Okay, guys, if you want their hair customs, you know where you can get them. We can pass to another one if you have.
Sure, yeah. So kind of continuing on the cephalopod mind flayer realm. This is, yeah, more of a dynamic one. So this sculpt is really amazing. There's even like an octopus beak in there in the mouth. Again, I gave him the bare feet of the Archimedes ogre. And this one has 3D printed parts from my action figure customs for these bracers. And the head is again from Teal Titan. He's very interested in cephalopods, and so has commissioned various sculpts of that. And this one was so dynamic that I just really was drawn
this guy
to it.
Could be maybe the leader of a faction or of a legion with the other guy before, because they have something similar. Speaking of the race,
yes.
But this guy, the other one, could be a legion builder of the same legion of this one.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great idea. And I kind of have these, you know, in the Mythic Legions world, they have like dark elves, and in my world and on my shelves, these guys kind of occupy that same region, which for me would be the Underdark, which is inspired by Dungeons and Dragons lore. So they are underground and in the dark and damp, and that's where they reside. But yeah, this is one of my favorites.
Yes, it's very cool. Also, another articulated paint job to do the skin for this guy.
Yeah, I didn't want to dye this one, so I used a Mythic Legions Bolthar based body, and instead of making the color around the joints, I just added the yellows and the oranges kind of at the interior of the body, so I wouldn't have to worry about the joints with him. And then, of course, his pattern is modeled after a blue-ringed octopus. So again, I used photo reference for that.
Very cool, very cool. Maybe you never thought to do also some custom diorama for your customs?
I have thought about it. It's more of, and I do have interest in doing that eventually. But right now, for me to work in that medium would require a lot more of a workshop space. And right now, my main painting desk is right here in my house. And eventually I would like to build more of a workshop space in the garage where I can really make a mess and, you know, just go crazy with spray paint and foam and all that stuff. So yes, in the future, I would like to get into that. But in the meantime, I've bought really nice dioramas from very talented diorama creators out there to save me all the work.
Okay, we can go to another custom now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get into the horses back here. The first one, this one's pretty simple. So this is using a Mythic Legions Balius base body. So Balius is behind me on the shelf here. He's the brown horse that just came out as part of the Mythic Legions Arethyr wave. And so this one is just a repaint of Balius. I also dyed this figure so that the joints were nice and black. I wouldn't have to worry about joint rub. And there's so many colors of horses out there that I want like right now. I didn't want to have to wait for the 4 horsemen to start doing all the repaints. So this is just a repaint that I wanted. I'll probably put him eventually with the Dark Templar Knights that are coming out. So to kind of capitalize on that black and white.
Very cool. I like the black dark horse in general. So I like this version of Belius that you did. And also believe that these horses are also good also for other line, because you can put these horses are perfect. And
yes.
Also should be good also in other line, or to create a Western line or medieval line, because this horse is maybe the only one character in the legions that could be available also in other line, because they looks like also a possible normal horse in another line, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've already seen a lot of action figure photographers using them for other lines for their photography, and they look great. And these, I think they're kind of the horses right now. They haven't really caught on with like the broader community, like the horse figure collectors and just other lines. But as soon as people start to see them, they are wonderfully articulated and super posable, unlike I think anything else that has come before in the horse figure world. So I foresee the popularity just of the horses themselves kind of getting their own following eventually because of the reasons you mentioned.
Yes, also is another step on this line, have some animals along with the characters, some animals
yes,
like the horse, because I talked a little bit with Corey. He told me that will be in the future more animals for other races, because, for example, for a dwarf will be something different. The dwarf is shorter.
Yes,
so.
I am very strongly hoping for the dwarves, for a ram or a like a hog would be cool. Or even a griffin. I really want a griffin, and that would be a very elaborate figure. But that's a super important cornerstone of the fantasy genre, is to have these fantastic beasts that the characters can ride off to battle. So
Yes, a ram maybe is also the first animal that I think, because also I remember in the Hobbit movie they riding a ram, the dwarves
yes.
in the show. So
yeah, and if anyone's a World of Warcraft fan out there, there's all kinds of neat mounts for the dwarves to ride, like rams and hogs and griffins and all that. So
okay, we can see another one.
okay, another steed here. So this is this was actually the first Mythic Legion steed that I created. So this was a special head sculpt that was made for me from myactionfigurecustoms.com. It's not a completely original sculpt. It was a 3D render with adding the beard. I've always liked the look of bearded unicorns. And so I was able to get this head sculpt. And I actually used a Mythic Legions test shot of Atheon, the demon horse, for this. So it started off gray, and that kind of saved me again from having to do any work on the joints. And I just
I like also this necklace that they're also. Where you got this part, the necklace?
Yeah, so this is actually a part of on the Atheon figure, but that figure is painted in an evil, villainous way. But there's actually a really pretty Celtic pattern that I think translates well to like a quote unquote good character. So I just repainted that because it was all of this came in gray because it was a test shot.
It's incredible how it looks like different with a different paint, this necklace, because
yeah.
for maybe you forgot the other one. It's typical also for, if you remember, also the official Mythic Legions, they with a different paint job you create different characters and different styles.
Yes.
Is interesting that.
It's amazing it's amazing how just a paint difference completely transforms the look of a character. And you can go good or evil, or just, completely different faction or race even. It's pretty remarkable.
And to do a custom for a horse is more difficult than a normal figure or not? What is the difference?
No, it's actually not. It's a little bit easier because they're so large that there's not a lot of super detailed work. And the Four Horsemen made these horses very easy to take apart, very easy to disarticulate, to paint. So I actually found them a little bit easier to work with than some of the other figures. Yeah.
And when you work on your customs, you listen music. What is the atmosphere that you use to go inside?
Yeah, sometimes I listen to music, but most of the time I'm listening to podcasts or other YouTube videos, because I found that like using the creative side of my brain at the same time as like the logical thinking side of my brain is just very, very satisfying. And so I like to have like really philosophical things playing on the background so I can think about them while I'm painting. I like that a lot.
Okay. For example, when I work on my novel, I listen music, because if I listen something that someone that that start to talking, this is a distraction to writing, because the music is like a river to following when you go in a story. But painting or design is different, because in my show I did a lot of interview with designer, and many of them listen broadcast like you. So I have this way to go inside their work. Only William Stout told me that he used the music to for as inspiration to go inside his work. But in general, I understand that the design prefer listen someone that talk about something. Maybe because to split the concentration, like you told before.
Yeah, if I was writing, I definitely couldn't listen to people talking. I'd have to listen to music.
No, I prefer the music. I choose a playlist, like a soundtrack for the story every time. That when I start a novel, before to start a novel, I choose my soundtrack of my story, and and everything goes very easily, because the music is a big help for to go in another world, because writing a story, it looks like open a door to another world. And the problem to me is not find a story, but find the time to do this story, because I have many other stuff on YouTube to do. Maybe I'm crazy because I create before the other channel of wrestling and become big, and now I start with this. I go to this one. So it's a crazy idea. I have only one channel is an hard work. Two channel is only a crazy man. A mad actor can do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, I imagine.
We can go to another custom.
Okay, one last horse. So we'll take him. This is my favorite one. So this one was again done from photo reference, and he's more of like a Clydesdale type horse with a nice pattern. And I haven't tried it, but his parts are going to be completely swappable with this one. So if I wanted to take his mane and tail, which are black, and put it on this horse, we could have an all black stallion, which I'll probably do for photos at some point soon. But this one's my favorite. He's just, this is again, the type of horse that I would be in real life attracted to for, photos or just artistic inspiration. And you can see just on the head how amazing that Balius sculpture was. He just paints up really nicely and so much detail in the head. And so I want to do a lot more horse colors. So I hope Four Horsemen give us different color base bodies like palomino and whites. I think would be a great next step.
I think it's not easy to do a skin tone like this one because create a good balance between the black and white color is not easy to do a realistic stuff for that, I believe.
Right. And what I kind of discovered during the paints on this is just kind of like the subtlety of that happens around the horse's like nose area. There's a lot more blending that needs to happen. Whereas like on the body, it's a very, very hard transition between white and black or whatever color the horse is. So that was just interesting for me to find out. So I find out all these neat things as I'm looking for hours at these photo references.
How many custom you did until now from since you start?
Hundreds. I haven't honestly counted them, but yeah, I would say about in my Mythic Legions collection, I would say about probably a third are as is characters that are just I don't even touch. I just keep as is because I really like them. And then probably 2/3 are customs that I've made.
Well, and you still have all your custom, or some of them are no longer with you?
I would say I've sold probably about a third of what I've made, especially more lately. I've sold them. I've been willing to part with them, I should say. But yeah, like I said, most of what I create is for my own collection, but I will sell them occasionally. Especially, I've done a lot of the like Masters of the Universe tribute figures lately. And I usually do sell that because I don't have, even though I really love the designs and the colors that were used for some of those characters, I don't have as strong a nostalgia tie to it as others might. I remember my brother being very, very interested in Masters of the Universe when we were growing up, but I was kind of peripheral to it, so I remember it, but I did not have those figures myself. So it's not as near and dear to me.
Yes, me too. I haven't the Mythic Legion tribute for Master of the Universe because I like Master of the Universe, especially Filmation. I'm a Master of the Universe fans, but the reason why I go to Mythic Legions is because my fantasy love, so HeroQuest, Lord of the Rings, because especially HeroQuest, because I'm a big fan of this board game. And when I saw that
Oh
you
yeah,
said to have a giant version of HeroQuest, miniature but giant.
yes.
So when I saw that, I started to I need these figures. I start this project, many projects on this channel. What is your feeling when you sold one of your figures? Because it's not like a seller that made many figures, same figures, and sold the figure because they are scheduled. Your case is your piece of art with you dedicated many hours of it, and later you sold your opera. What is your feeling when you sold one of your figures?
I guess it's just kind of like a satisfying feeling because for so long I've thought about Dungeons and Dragons and kind of like the world building part of that. And so Mythic Legions comes close, and some of the characters they make kind of fit into that world that's in my head of like character design and races and things like that. But when I make something myself, it's very, very, very specific. And so when I see it, I just really like it just makes me happy. I don't know how else to explain that.
Okay, so it's not said give to another one your piece of art. It's not said.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll be a little bit sad to see it go because I really did like it. But when I come back home and I see how much space I actually have to display things, I know it was a good choice.
Okay, can you show me another one?
Of course. Okay, so going back to that ogre scale, this is one I did a while ago. So this is
Wow, it's so cool, this character.
yeah. So this is a stone ogre. I don't know if you can really see, but I added like a rocky texture to his skin. It's kind of like a rough, rocky
Cool.
texture.
Yes, yes, I can see now.
Yeah,
Yes.
a little hard to see.
Wow.
But this one uses quite a lot of 3D parts, more than some of the others that I've done. So the harness here is from my action figure customs, as well as the pauldrons. And the head is from Planetary Dog Toys. He does a great job with character design and sculpting, and he and his wife. And then the rest is, let's see. I think I used an Archimedes base body for this, which was kind of already gray, and various parts from other ogres for him.
And how you do the stone texture on the figure?
Yeah, so this was an experiment. It was a special technical paint from Citadel. I forget what it's called, but it's like stone effect, basically. And mind you, these are made primarily for miniatures. So I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but it has like a grit in it, and it adheres really well. So it doesn't really, flake off or anything. It's pretty strong. So I was impressed with that. And I knew obviously that, to use a paint like that, it would have to be something like rough and ugly, kind of like an ogre. So
No, it's
yeah,
very good. He has a name, this character.
I just call him Stone Ogre.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And I
it's
made,
cool. It looks like a leader of something because he's a huge personality, this character
oh
that you
yeah.
did.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have him. So he hangs out on my, the shelf with like the mountain dwarves and the, like the Valkyries, like they kind of occupy the same realm in my mind, and he would be obviously the enemy, and pretty formidable. But I don't have it with me here today, but I did paint an alternate head for him. So one of the things I really like about some of these 3D creators is that they'll make different expressions of the same character. And so I have a closed mouth for him as well. And that really adds a lot of display and also photography potential for some of these characters, to give them like different expressions from the same character. So I like that a lot.
Cool. And the pauldrons, where you got the pauldrons?
The pauldrons, yeah, these were my actionfigurecustoms.com
Cool.
also. Same as
Very.
the harness.
And for example, when you start a figure like this one, that he has different pieces from different way, how you start to the concept of a figure like that? How you choose the pieces? What is
Yeah.
the
I
process
guess
to choose the?
for the design process, I think when I'm thinking of like imagining the display that I want, I go by like zones of the world. So like habitat zones. So I think of, okay, what would be in the forest? What would be in the mountains? What would be underground? What would be out in like the wastelands? And like, so that's kind of where I start. And I want like heroes and enemies in all of those realms. And so I have this idea kind of what I want. And if the four horsemen make a figure that kind of fits into one of those realms, then perfect, great, it's as is. And if something is lacking that they haven't put out quite yet, or that they are not interested in putting out, then that's kind of where the 3D creators come in. And if they see something that I like, or sometimes I'll communicate with them directly and ask for something specific to be made. And that just helps me like flesh out the world that I kind of imagined.
Cool. I love it because it's interesting to understand the process behind. Because, for example, when I did with my friends some custom figure of wrestling, basically I try to create some character that I saw on TV when I was a kid, and to have this guy for the first time ever in action figure, but was create a roster, so it's a little bit easily to do. But for Mythic Legions it's different because you need to create to be inside the world and in a story. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting also understand what is the process to create a new character for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do take, while I do enjoy the Mythic Legions lore that is written for that line, I do take elements of that and kind of build it into the lore that's in my own head. So I don't always adhere to it, but sometimes I do.
There is also a shout out for both from Nicholas Unziker and Luana Nikki Eris Jumping Toys from Switzerland also. So we are worldwide tonight.
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
We can see another one.
Oh yeah. So let's see. I've done a lot of figures in the Ogre scale. Just because we were without this large size for so long that once they came out with the different ogres, kind of went crazy and just did ogre scale stuff for a while. So
wow,
this was inspired. So the very first Legions Con in New Jersey a couple of years ago, there's a creator named Zombie13, and he made a two-headed blue Cyclops that was in the standard scale. And I loved that figure so much, but I just kind of kept wishing that it was large, like it's huge behemoth, right? And so I kept thinking about it, and eventually my Action Figure Customs made a two-headed torso. And so along with these Cyclops heads. And so it was the perfect opportunity for me to make the figure in the larger scale, because I wanted just a huge monster, basically. Awesome. And the bracers too are from my Action Figure Customs.
Awesome. And which you told me before, the landscape of the nature, the position for the character, where is in your mind the land where this guy lives?
Definitely like in the frozen tundra.
Okay, yes, because the skin looks like he could be close to the ice troll a little bit. In the same land.
Yeah, so in this land, I imagine frost giants. I imagine big, burly, like barbarian humans. I imagine the frost elves that Mythic Legions has already made. Tundra orcs, crazy monsters like this. Maybe like a Yeti or something like that, which I haven't made or nobody's made yet. So eventually I'd like some sort of Yeti.
And when you watch your shelf with all of your custom that you did in several years, what is your feelings when you saw all things that you did?
Well, I've moved a couple times in the last couple of years, so it's been a very long time since I've been able to display everything and have that feeling of satisfaction of seeing it exactly as I imagined. However, I just moved recently into a more permanent situation, and I am in the process right now of getting shelves for this room I'm in. This is my painting room, my hobby room, and it'll also be where I display my whole collection. So to be determined on my feelings about it, but I do look forward to finally having enough space to display my whole Mythic Legions collection.
Okay, because I believe it should be interesting to see a video maybe with all your collection, a full collection, because it looks like a Nikki Nikole museum.
Yes, that is definitely in the cards. It will be a little bit more time until I get everything delivered and assembled. But I will definitely do that once I get everything together.
Okay, we can go to another one now.
Yeah. So we saw a lot of villains. We saw some horses. Here is one this is kind of more of a simple part swap custom. So this is Otho, and I took his head and put it on a Magnus body, which was just recently released. And the neat thing about that body is that it's the torso specifically. It's a little more bulky, and I just felt like this character deserves a little more heft to it than the original. The original is a very rare figure, is my understanding, and it's very sought after. So it's a very expensive figure. So this was a very simple repaint. I repainted the loincloth, and I repainted a little bit of blue on the pauldrons of the Magnus character, and I added Otho's head. So very, very simple custom, but it's one of the favorites in my collection just because it kind of gave him more of a robust look on the shelf.
So maybe this character, this figure is your version of Otho. Your because
Yeah,
when you watch the first time the figure, you need I want a different
yeah,
version.
yeah. I wasn't there. I liked him a lot, and I loved where they were going with it, but there was just something a little bit off about his design. His head did look a little bit big to me, and so as soon as I saw the Magnus body, I was like, "Up, I know exactly what I'm going to do." And the thing about Mythic Legions is from the time of pre-order to the time of delivery is quite a lot of time. I think in this case, it was almost 2 years. So I was sitting on this idea for 2 years and I was finally able to do it. So that's always fun. It's just,
I believe that waiting as a
yeah.
figure, a stuff or playset is a part of the game, you know.
Mhm.
Waiting your figures. I remember when I made my pre-order for my Snake Mountain from Super 7, I
Oh,
waiting
yeah.
1 year and a half for that. But when I got that huge big box, it looks like a Christmas again. So
Yeah.
it's a part of because sometimes I found on the web or some on these channels on the comments, some people are a little bit complaining because they, about the pre-order to wait in the figures. But in my opinion, is a part of the game. Waiting the stuff that you love is not bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, waiting too much maybe could be not very good, but waiting is a part of. Also, right now I'm still waiting for the Elithia waves and figures that I
Oh,
got.
you're still waiting. Okay.
So they are coming, believe in maybe before Christmas. So I'm happy for that because I for my Mythic Legions project, I have different projects. For one of my projects, I pick some character for each different wave, and sometimes I pick character that was created many years ago. Some years ago, it was difficult to find in the aftermarket
Oh, yeah.
because the price of the Mythic Legions become too much high, in my
Yes.
opinion. The
Yes, they
aftermarket.
do. I was lucky enough to get in on the ground floor. I missed the original Kickstarter. This was, I believe, in the original Kickstarter was in 2015, and then they came to delivery in 2016, and I was able to do an order of in stock items in 2016, right as they were delivering, and of course I fell in love with them. But yeah, it seems like in the collecting world, we kind of have a choice of either this model of made to order, essentially. So pre-order, they take those numbers, they go to the factory. It takes about a year, maybe like 8 months to a year, maybe more to deliver. So it's a huge patience and waiting game. So that's one model. And then the other model is with like the larger companies is they put stuff out. It might be an exclusive, very hard to find, running around to different stores, which I personally
Exactly.
prefer the waiting game than the running around to different stores
I'm
game.
agree with you. I'm agree with you also because I'm live in Italy and find some stuff that I collect and maybe Walmart exclusive or Target exclusive become impossible. And the only way is still eBay to get some figures that I collect because it's impossible because they didn't a pre-order worldwide. Some company only for Horseman or Super 7 are made pre-order worldwide to
Right.
have opportunity to everyone to get your figures because some big company made I know collect some stuff on that, but some big company I know that because I'm also channel of 2 News that put the pre-order immediately after the announcement in few minutes become sold out.
Oh
So
yeah,
the collector haven't the opportunity to get them, and the aftermarket is the only way. It's
yeah.
not. It's bad. This to me.
That's very frustrating to me, and I prefer just patience and waiting. But everyone's different, and of course, I collect some other lines as well. So I have a mix of both in my life. I'm running around trying to find various GI Joe or Star Wars figures, and sometimes paying way more than they're worth to get them if I feel like I need them. Which, yeah, it frustrates me. So I think the Super 7 and Mythic Legions model is definitely my preference because I know I'm
Yes.
going to get it for the right
Also
price.
speaking of the for awesome, and when I then the surprise that I had when I opened my first figures is that the respect that they have for the collector because they, for
Yeah.
example, for the Ogre size, they give you a message to use the air dryer. And if
Yes.
you're new to collecting, is a good advice, because if you start, sometimes in the beginning as a collector, I broken some figure in the past for
Yeah.
other line because no one put this message. And so this stuff, for example, is a respect for a collector, or also the packaging friendly. So you
Yeah.
understand that behind this figure is not just people that want make money, but the people that love their job and also their action figure. So when he sold the figure, they they don't want that you broken that figures. So I love it.
Yeah, I do think they put a lot of care in both Mythic Legions and Super 7. I think my feeling is they do put a lot of care and thought into the packaging and having it be resealable, as you mentioned. And they're all collectors too, so they kind of know what we want, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can see another one if you want.
Okay, last one that I have. Well, almost the last one that full figure that I have here. But this one I did a while back, and when I first bought this head, it's like a rat head, or also called Skaven. When I first bought this head, I thought I was going to make an evil character, but when I got it in hand and I started to paint it, it like just wanted to be a heroic, good character.
Yes.
And so I made kind of this rat paladin using the goblin body. And so this head's from my action figure customs, the head and weapon. I really do not like painting weapons, so I will do it occasionally, but I really don't like doing it. It's just not fun for me. But yeah, he's just fun character. I love having the whole size range, from small characters, normal size humans, to like these really large behemoth type characters. So this
And
one's
why you don't like painting the weapon?
it's hard to explain. I think the way that I usually blend colors and do shading, the weapon is like a completely different thing. And so eventually, I do like to challenge myself. So I don't like to stay in my comfort zone. Sometimes it's nice, but I do like to challenge myself and kind of push myself to do new techniques. And so I think I just need to put more time and like research into it about how, like, different methods to paint metal that to make it look really good. Because right now what I do is like a pretty basic paint job for a weapon, and I'd like to kind of knock it out of the park a little bit more. So that's just yeah.
And this guy is a goblin size.
Yep. So he's small. Let me show you in comparison to the human size.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
It's because if you watch this guy alone, looks like not small like he is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Cool.
So small guy. And
yes,
I do
but
hope
he looks like an ear. I agree with you, because with this color, you can thought that he's a bad guy. He's a good guy. You understand that immediately.
Good. That's what I was going for. What was I going to say? I do hope that they give us figures that are even smaller than this. So like little imps or gnomes or something, fairies even. That would be cool. We haven't gotten smaller than that size yet.
But smaller is not more difficult painting a smaller figure.
A little bit, but when you're kind of dealing in this 7-inch scale, it's kind of all equivalent. It gets really, really tricky for me anyways, for painting like Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, which are super tiny, and it kind of requires a whole different way of painting, because with something this size, the light captures it and the detail, and it creates shadow, it creates kind of its own shading. Whereas with a mini, the light doesn't capture it the same way. And so that's why you see these really, really elaborate paint jobs where people add the shading into the paint job to make it look more realistic and more dynamic. And so I have seen people use that technique. I've even used that technique sometimes with Mythic Legions. But I think to have things really fit in with the line and the standard figures that the Four Horsemen give us, I don't want to go too far into that style.
Okay, I want to read some comments or message in the chat
Great.
for you. Michael Casper says, Nikki has been very helpful to me when it comes to paints. She is willing to help new customizer with paint matching. So appreciative. My pronunciation sometimes is not perfect. Of the time she took out the help someone she doesn't even know.
Oh, that's really sweet, Michael. Thank you. I, one of my main goals is to be helpful to people. I really, this has been so much fun for me, kind of going on this painting journey. I really want to help inspire that in someone else, especially if they're like apprehensive about trying painting. Like, I really, really want to encourage people to try it because it's brought me so much joy, and so I do want to try to share that as much as possible.
Yes, it's a type of art. I believe if you feel that you want to do that, you need to try that because the only way to understand an art is start to try that.
Mhm.
Because I know, for example, about of writing, there are many school of writing, but I don't trust in that because the only way to writing is read, but especially
Mhm.
write, and you find your way to tell a story if this is your destiny, because the art is a part of our destiny. Because when you discover your heart, you discover your destiny and your way to live. Because become the best part of your life.
I will wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think someone like me, like I tend to want things to be perfect. But if you're starting something new, you have to start somewhere, and it's not going to be perfect. And you really have to be okay with that and know that over time, it takes time, it takes practice to improve. And so once you are in that improvement arc, it is very, very satisfying and fun.
Okay, there is a question, a consideration. It
Mhm.
says, how do you do eyes? I'm currently customizing anti-attorney man with vintage head. I am heavy issue doing the eyes. Any tips? I am an artist and I'm looking to more custom figures.
Yeah, I would say brush selection is very, very important. Um, I have tried a lot of different types of brushes, and I'm always on the hunt for a good brush. And it's really nice to find one that really really works well. I do have some tutorial videos and kind of informative posts that I've done on my Instagram page for that sort of thing, like brush selection. But with eyes, they were difficult, very difficult for me at first. So um, I would say start with like a solid color eye. So perhaps anti-Eternia character would be a solid red. Um, so one of the tips that I would give you would be to make sure your paints are thinned so that the paint is actually doing some work for you, that you don't have to use the brush to take that paint to every corner of the eye, because that's where you're gonna go outside the lines and get frustrated. So make sure your paint is thin and it will do the work for you. It will kind of flow into the areas that you want it to, and not too thin, because then it's just going to get everywhere. So thin your paints to a good consistency, and that way you won't get a bunch of like clumping and all of that. The next thing I would say, and it again, if you're doing anything more than a solid color eye, what I usually like to try to do, let me see. So with this tiger head, um, it's hard to tell, but he has pupils. And so what I start with is a solid color. So in this case, it was green. I add some shading. Spend some time like looking at animals' eyes, your dog or your cat. Look at people eyes and notice where the highlights are. Notice where the different colors are. Look at some pictures of photographs of eyes, and they'll pick up light not just at the top but the bottom too. And so you want to paint those shadings into the colored part of the eye, and then you're going to add your pupil, and then you're going to add a either gloss to the eye to make it more lifelike, or you could add what's called the catch light, which is that tiny little white reflective dot, and that will really bring life to your eyes on your character.
I believe it's not easy put all these details in a little
No.
eyes like that.
And it's certainly not something that I've perfected. That is always a work in progress for me. So it's not easy, but when you nail it, and it looks really great.
Yes, but it's a part of the journey of an artist. Everything is work in progress. It's not my. This never ever a final moments. Every day is a work in progress to growing up your talents. So is normal for an artist ever this work in progress because only this philosophy can give you better stuff every day or every
Right.
month because sometimes it
Yeah, and
needs
just
more time to do.
and a lot of practice. I would say, for practice, it's nice to do something larger. So for eyes, I'd start with like a large like ogre scaled figure and practice, and then kind of work your way down to tiny. I
Speaking
did
of,
a
speaking,
go ahead.
sorry. Speaking of for large scale figure, you did some custom of the trolls.
Not yet. That was Eric Miller, and he did an amazing job of some head swaps for the trolls. Really, really great, and very inspiring work.
Maybe it's time also for you to do one troll in
It's
your.
it's yeah, it's on deck. Right now, my focus is to get everything ready for Legions Con, but I do have a couple projects after that.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
they're in the cards.
Okay, now it's time for my last question. But if you want to come back in the future to talks about other your custom, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Because
Absolutely.
I believe you are a lot of cast of figures and maybe should be better have other chapter of that. Okay, my last question is if you can describe your feelings about your art with only one word, which word do you pick?
Oh boy, I love this question. I would say passion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, as the passion is the blood of the art, the
yeah,
blood of the art
yeah.
of the art.
I would say, yeah, I'm so passionate about fantasy art and character creation and the natural world, and so I like to blend all that together. And so it's definitely a passion project for me.
Awesome. And now I will go to the piano, my friends.
Excellent. Thank you,
When
everyone.
I go to the piano, it's a sad moment because it's the end of the interview. But don't forget to follow Nikki Nikole on Instagram to understand what is next with her custom. And don't forget that she will return for more custom on this channel. Thank you for watching, guys. And thank you, Nikki, to enjoy the stream. And there is maybe last question for now for Rafael because I'm sorry to don't put
Sure.
this question. Did you ever use an airbrush?
I have not yet. It also in the cards. My very generous friend Dennis Derby recently, who is also an amazing artist, recently bought me an airbrush to try, and so it's something that I will probably delve into after Legions Con and start to work with that. But yeah, I'm excited to do so.
So stay tuned for more also for the airbrush.
I love
Okay,
it.
thank you so much.
All right.
And see you soon for another episode for other your
That
customs.
would be
Thank you so
great.
much.
Thanks so much, Alan.
And
Thank you.
thank you to everyone to enjoy the stream. Don't forget to subscribe the channel because more is coming, more guests are coming because this is a never-ending show. Thank you
Great.
so much. Goodbye to everyone.
Thanks so
Good
much,
night, my
everyone.
friends.